Let me begin with a statement grounded not with opinion, but in evidence. Some of the most effective national leadership outcomes in modern history have come from women, not occasionally, not symbolically, but consistently, across crises, across systems, across cultures, from pandemic responses to governance integrity to long-term societal investment. The data reveals a pattern that is both clear and uncomfortable. So the real question is not, can women lead nations effectively? That question has already been answered. The real question is, why are we still designing systems that underutilize one of the most effective leadership assets available? And that is women. You are welcome to the Clarity Mandate podcast. I am Dr. Vivian Atud. This is where we go beyond surface conversations and bring clarity to leadership, to systems and transformation. So today's episode is both analytical and it is necessary. We are examining female leadership, not through ideology, not through advocacy, but through data, through systems thinking and performance outcomes. Because in a world facing economic volatility, governance challenges, increasing complexity, leadership is not a symbolic role. It is a performance function. It is a performance indicator. And when performance is the metric, we must have no choice but to follow the evidence. And I hope someone out there is agreeing with me. So let's actually go ahead and ground this in reality. Globally, women remain significantly underrepresented in national leadership and leadership at all levels. A recent global data states that less than 15% of heads of states or government are women. In many regions, including parts of Africa, representation is even lower. So just now pause and consider this. Just pause for a moment and consider that. We're in a world where women make up roughly 50% plus of the population. Participation across sectors is very limited. Women contribute significantly to economic activity at all levels, yet leadership representation does not reflect that capacity. It reflects structural design. So now contrast that with performance indicators. And let's take an example of during the COVID-19 pandemic. Multiple analysis, including some of research from the IMF, from Harvard Research, from Global Policy Institute, observed a consistent pattern. Countries led by women, for example, we had New Zealand under Jacinda Ardern. We had Germany that was then under Angela Merkel. We had Finland under Sanna Marin. All these countries and many others demonstrated faster response time during COVID, lower mortality rates in the early phases, higher public trust, clearer communication strategies. Now, to be precise, correlation does not equal causation. So let's clear that out of the way. But when the patterns repeat across contexts, they demand some explanation. So let me make some points here as we continue to look at this core argument to amplify women's leadership. So my key point number one that I want to make on this episode today is that leadership effectiveness is less a function. Leadership effectiveness is a function of decision architecture. So let's elevate this conversation. Leadership is not about personality. Forget it. It's not about who you are not. It is about decision architecture. The ability to process complexity, integrate information, make timely, high-quality decision. And research in behavioral science and leadership studies shows that effective decision makers tend to, number one, seek diverse input. They listen to various opinions. They avoid overconfidence bias. They evaluate long-term consequences, not just some short-term impact or consequences. And this is actually supported by studies that suggest that female leaders, on average, demonstrate higher collaborative decision-making, greater risk-taking awareness, not just risk aversion. It's important to have that distinction. They are more inclusive in problem framing and problem solving. And these are not just some soft traits, they are high performance decision mechanisms. And we find them highly present in female leaders. And secondly, governance outcome reflect leadership priorities. So let's move from behavior to outcomes. The World Bank tells us consistently that higher female representation in governance correlates with, number one, lower corruption levels, number two, greater transparency, and number three, increased investment in education and healthcare. So now, why does this really matter? You can ask me, Dr. Vivian, why is this important? Lower corruption, greater transparency, increased investment in education and healthcare. Why is it important from a governance point of view? Yes, it is important because these are not just some peripheral issues. They are the foundations of long-term national development. Education drives human capital. A nation that is educated, the right skills, it helps the nation to move forward. Healthcare drives productivity because you don't want a sick nation. You want people that are able to work. And transparency drives what? Institutional trust. Can people trust our institutions? So when leadership prioritizes this area, it's not just governance, it's nation building. And we can see that women leaders are nation builders. Point number three, crisis leadership reviews cognitive discipline. So crisis is the ultimate leadership test. It removes preparation, it removes predictability, it removes comfort. So what remains during crisis is judgment, is clarity, and its execution with speed. During global crises, many female leaders demonstrated early, decisive action, high communication clarity, empathy combined with firmness. So now let's be clear. Empathy is often misunderstood in leadership. Empathy is not softness. It is situational awareness, the ability to understand human behavior, the ability to know what to respond, what is the social response, systemic impact, and integrate that into decision making. That is strategic intelligence, and we have seen this exhibited by women across the globe. And another important point is let's address the core issue. The data does not point to a capability gap. It points to a system design problem. And these barriers include political gatekeeping, cultural biases, limited access to leadership pipelines. So structural exclusion from decision-making spaces. This is not just a firmness or a fairness issue. It is a performance issue because when systems restrict access, they restrict the quality of leadership outcomes. Let me make a few points here. Africa's strategic opportunity really lies in redefining leadership models, for example. You want to bring this conversation to the African context. Africa is really at its unique moment with rapid population growth, increasing economic potential, expanding leadership demands. This is not just a challenge, it is a strategic inflection point. Africa has the opportunity to, number one, redesign leadership pipelines. Number two, integrate diversity intentionally. And number three, build governance systems aligned with performance, not tradition. And here is the key insight. Emerging systems have flexibility than established ones, which means Africa can leapfrog outdated leadership models, build more inclusive, high performance systems. And let's me say this directly. When leadership systems exclude capable individuals, the system itself becomes what? Inefficient. Not morally, functionally, because leadership is not about representation for its own sake. It's about result. And if data shows that diverse leadership improves outcome, then failing to act on that data is not just neutrality, it is strategic negligence. And the question is, you're like, oh, Dr. Vivian, you have been raising all these issues. What is the solution? So what must we do? What must we do? Not theoretically, but structurally. And listen to me and listen good. If you are joining us just now, catching the podcast, this is the Clarity Mandate. And I am your host, Dr. Vivian Atud. And we are talking about female leadership and its strategic importance. And let me make this point why it is important. Number one, redesign leadership pipelines early. Leadership development must begin with in education systems, in mentorship systems or structures, in institutional pathways. Talent must be identified and developed, not assumed. Number two, shift from identity-based to performance-based leadership selection. Not quotas alone, not options, but competence, track record, decision-making ability. That will move the needle because we have so many competent ladies, female leaders out there excluded because of their gender. Number three, build institutional support systems. Leadership does not operate in isolation. Systems must support decision making. We need systems that will help women to make decisions better. Sustainability. Systems must support execution because somewhat people will tell you you're set up to fail. Why? Because the system that you are in doesn't support you to execute with clarity. And number four, we need to normalize diverse leadership narratives. What people see shapes what they believe is possible. Narratives matter. And let me tell you, there is a principle here. Leadership is stewardship. And stewardship is not defined by gender. Stewardship is not defined by your background. It is defined by responsibility, by wisdom, and by execution. So let me leave you with this. The future of leadership will not be decided by tradition. It will be decided by performance. And the data is already pointing in a direction we cannot ignore. So the question is no longer, can women lead effectively? The question is, can we afford to ignore leadership capacity wherever it exists? Can we afford to ignore women leaders? Because when leadership improves, everything else improves. I mean, someone puts it simple, the bus stops with leadership. So I want to thank you for listening to the Clarity Mandate podcast with me, Dr. Vivian Atud. If this actually expanded your thinking about female leadership and how we need to be intentional in getting the right structures, the right systems, in acknowledging and including female leadership because of their capacity, please share. If this challenge you, please subscribe and visit the Clarity Mandate podcast, explore our books, join the movement, and I will see you in the next episode where we continue to bring clarity to leadership and transformation.